Today on March 17th, we're celebrating 11 years since we moved into our new main campus building. However, our story begins 200 years before. Just at the time when Abraham Lincoln was braving the wilderness as a youth, some 30 miles from here, there were folks who were moving in from Ireland and England and Germany, making this their home. Around 1819, there were a group of people called Methodists who were gathering in McGarry's warehouse in Evansville along the riverfront. And they would gather about once every 6 weeks with a traveling preacher to come and host services. However, there was a local group who wanted to have their own services right here in the Bluegrass area. It was a cool spring evening in 1824. Mark and Sarah Wheeler invited 3 other couples over to their home, 2 Hillyer families and the McJohnston family, in order to prayerfully discern beginning a new Methodist society in Vanderburgh County.
Mark Wheeler was my 3 times great-grandfather. He came over from England in 1822 and established the first Sunday school class for Bluegrass Church in 1824. So here we are 200 years later. They started out in Mark and Sarah's home, and then they moved to the Hillyer home. And then they built in 1834 this log church.
We're standing right in the center of where that log church stood, which is now part of the Bluegrass Cemetery. Do you remember what the measurements were?
20 by 24. There were 4 windows on either side and then a window to the north above the pulpit.
We were told that, they built this by their own willingness to go into the woods and find large oak trees, and I can't imagine, cutting those down then and then, making the pegs, the pins that would put those together, and just a lot of hard work to accomplish that.
Yes.
That's just a remarkable beginning and a remarkable start right here in that log church where we stand. 17 years after the log church had been built, it was running out of space. And so it was decided that they would build a new church a half-mile down the road at the corner of Cemetery and Petersburg Roads. James Hillyer donated a 1/4 acre of land on which this church would be built. This church was a white frame building. It had 2 front door entrances. Now later in the 1900s, it would be remodeled and renovated. 2 front entrances became 1 entrance. A new vestibule was added. The church was raised. A basement was dug underneath to provide more classroom. This 1,750 square foot building was 3.5 times larger than the log church. Now there's an interesting story that's been told that one Christmas, some youth were asked to go find a Christmas tree. And so these guys went into the woods and they found the biggest pine tree that they could find. And they brought it to the church. There was one problem. They couldn't get it through the door, but that didn't stop them. One of them had the idea to get a mule to pull it in, and so that's what they did. They found a mule, and they pulled the tree through the doors, down the aisle, and set it up. Well, you can imagine when the church fathers found out about that, they weren't too happy. And so there was a threat that these boys would be disciplined by the church and put on probation. However, the story ends well. All was forgiven, and they became productive members of the congregation. The year was 1920, and there was a new building project. It was called the Community House. Reverend Shake was the pastor, and he was charged with reaching the children in the community. It was also known at that time that if it was important to the community, it was important for the church. And so in this building there was a small gym, a stage, a kitchen, and classrooms. And there within that structure, they would host orchestras and concerts and plays. They had boys and girls basketball leagues. They had meetings for 4-H and for farmers. And it was also the place where we held the first Scott Vanderburgh County Fair. Later on, it became a well-known place for roller skating and square dancing on the weekends. And so people came from all over the region to enjoy the nightlife right here. And so it became a popular place, not only through the week, but also on Sunday mornings as well, when children and youth and adults overflowed the space wanting to learn more about Jesus. Well, the 1851 building needed to be updated. It was running out of space. It had a lot of physical needs. And so the decision was made in 1964 to build a new church. And it's what we call today the chapel campus. The sanctuary and the classrooms were built. The first worship service was held in 1965 on January 31st. The chapel campus has been used as a worshiping community, as a place to grow and study in the faith. This building continues to provide effective ministry for so many groups in our congregation. Through the years, the chapel campus has had renovations. It had a rose window added. It had stained glass windows added. It had a bunch of audio-visual lighting added. And then in 2002, it was renovated in preparation for the Home for Your Heart School, which opened its doors in 2003 and has since seen 3,000 students come through its doors. Now there's a rumor that the pastor at the church at the time rode his motorcycle through the doors, down the aisle to the very altar of the church. Now this happened on Father's Day, and the pastor evidently was trying to get the attention of the men that morning. Now, whether that's true or not, it kind of is more of a legend than anything. In 1995, our gym, which we also call the community center, was built. And it was built to replace the community house. And for a cost of $450,000, it was a major building project at the time. Since then, 10,000 people have entered those doors so that they might come for blood drives and meals, and for Boy Scouts, for 4-H, for Feed My Starving Children packing events, for neighborhood parties, for Upward basketball, and for so many other activities too numerous to name. It has continued to be a connection in our area so that we can reach our community for Christ. After several years of church growth in our chapel campus, there came a time when we didn't have any more space. We were having to move our Easter services to the 4-H auditorium. We held our Christmas Eve services in our own gym. Our own sanctuary wasn't large enough. And so our congregation decided to take a huge step forward and to build again. And so after many meetings of our building team and our capital stewardship committee, we finally broke ground in May 2012 and started the building of our main campus building at $4.6 million. At 23,000 square feet, it's 48 times larger than the log church. This space has provided us an incredible place that we can connect with one another, that we can grow with our faith with Jesus Christ, that we can continue to invite our community in so that we can be a place that makes space for Jesus Christ and our community together. Through the years, Bluegrass Church has been willing to step out in faith, to build larger, to create space for more persons to become disciples of Jesus Christ. Though there have been many changes in 200 years of fabulous history, two things have remained the same. First, we still worship the same God then and now. And Bluegrass's DNA continues to invite, welcome, and serve our community as disciple makers of Jesus Christ, all to the glory of God.